Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Monday edition. We apologize as we had a temporary tech glitch, but as always, the best producer in the business got it taken care of, my producer, Demetrius Johnson. And we're back on, and we let you hear before the break, head coach Chad Morris previewed this upcoming Saturday, 6:30 p.m. kickoff at the Memorial Stadium in Lexington, Kentucky versus the Kentucky Wildcats. And felt like, for the first time this year as a receiver core outside of Deion Stewart, the receiver core, Demetrius, is in full attack. Then I'll get Demetrius' comments as he gets the show prepared. But I want to talk about Tyson Morris because Tyson Morris really was a big question for media toward head coach Chad Morris today. And, the things that he said about Tyson, these are things that me personally, a guy that's covered Fayetteville High football and covered Tyson and watched Tyson play as a junior high wide receiver at Ramey Junior High, not surprised at anything this kid is getting right now. And the things that Coach Chad Morris said, it always goes back to work ethic, being prepared, attention to detail. Being a guy that was called in to do a position last week at the Texas A&M game that he hadn't even practiced for, and being thrown out there in a sudden moment and the way he performed. And it just seems like that's what Tyson does, the sophomore, and a guy that he earned his his scholarship. Chad mentioned that he really anticipates Tyson playing a lot more this year and in his remaining 2 years going forward for the University of Arkansas in this program. And also too was known and announced that Jordan Jones will be out in full strength this Saturday. Trey Knox has been he's back full steam. They also too talked a little bit of, and I think here momentarily I'll have Demetrius, but talked about getting a couple more freshmen in, and the name Malik Chavis, freshman cornerback. His name was mentioned also. Jalen Catalon, freshman safety. Defensive end, Eric Gregory, another true freshman. And Zach Williams, guys that are going to be back with the ball club this week. Mentioned about Eric. And also, too, talked about Mateus Soley. They're anticipating this week, guys, that Matea gets his cast off. Now, for the way I've seen his get off, that line of scrimmage and how he attacks, he's been able to put a lot of pressure on the outside rush with two hands. And I think I'm going to be able to bring in Demetrius on this question real quick. A two-handed Mateus Soley. What do you think that spells for the right tackle? If you're the left tackle, I should say, for the Kentucky Wildcats on Saturday for that duration of that ball game.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a special player. He had flashes of things he could do with one hand. So, now that he can keep the offensive player off his body and really get that separation to where he can get that leverage underneath him and really do some things with his hands, chopping, spinning, and just getting that underneath bridge. I think there's a lot of things you're going to see differently from Mateus Soley, and I'm really excited to see him.
And I also, too, think I know Sosa Agim was a little banged up following the Texas A&M game, so I think it was really good to get him back. Another guy that he mentioned was the production, as Coach John Chavis mentioned, the production of Jamario Bell, a fifth-year senior that I think is starting to really be productive for this defensive unit. They feel real good, Demetrius, about this weekend's ball game, and I think rightfully so. From like I said, the mood that I saw last week in practice during the off week, I saw a lot of younger guys that they talked about getting more and more reps. But when we had media availability with the assistant coaches on Tuesday, with the defensive coaches, and then on Wednesday with the offensive coaches, they seemed really, really upbeat. Outside of Coach Jeff Traylor, then I think that's just more of the head coach side of Jeff coming out, being a former high school head coach, being a legend in the state of Texas. For the most part, this is a very hungry, very upbeat staff and players, don't you think?
Definitely. I think what you mentioned that a lot of these younger players are going to get in, like Jordan Catalon. I think this bye week gave Chad a little bit more time to assess those guys and really see what they can do to contribute when they do get in the game. I think Chad was still under the impression that he could rely on some of these older guys, but I think as the season's getting going on and you see guys like Buster getting hurt and seeing how crucial of a player he is to that defense, and not having a backup for those guys, and getting Ladarius Bishop some time. I think he's really understanding that he's going to have to use these younger guys as the season goes on. KJ Jefferson is one of the guys that I've been really hoping that Chad Morris will kind of find something for him to do, whether it's a small, short yardage package or just something that he can get himself on the field, because everybody knows that new red shirt rule. You have 4 games that you can really play in. I think Chad should utilize them to get the rest of these wins that we need to try to go bowling.
And that was one of the big questions that was posed as well, was KJ Jefferson. I think one of the guys that were mentioned in the true freshman group that's just real close to playing was Monte Spivey, and per Coach Joe Craddock, he seems to be the guy real close on the offensive side of the ball. But he did also mention that KJ's had a really good week, made a lot of big time progress. Just a couple more things that they need to continue to clean up. As far as his delivery, his footwork, being able to have his feet in the proper place to be able to rotate the weight and spin the ball the way it needs to be thrown. So it's just those little things. He will be on the travel squad. They also Hudson Henry was another guy whom Chad mentioned that had a really good week as far as the young guys getting better and possibly getting enough reps to get in that rotation at the tight end spot. Arkansas had another big event that took place this past weekend, as their basketball team had its inaugural red-white game, Team Eddie versus Team Nolan, in Barnhill Arena. We're going to step away. We're going to get us a real quick break, and we'll talk about that. But we caught up following the red-white game with head basketball coach Eric Musselman. Here's what Muss had to say, and then we'll be back with much, much more. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ. Back in a bit. Let's get it.
The training camp time segment is one where you're going against each other every day behind closed doors, and you're doing a lot of skeleton work or 5-on-0 work, and a lot of drills that are contact, and to be able to play in front of fans and have the lights on and with referees, much needed after grinding the whole summer and then into this segment for us. And now we got a 2-week stretch before we get to compete again. But this will be a great opportunity for our staff to individually watch some film with guys, and also to watch them collectively as a team and try to clean up some of the areas from an execution standpoint. I thought from execution offensively, we probably a little bit ahead of where I thought we might be. As far as spacing and defensively, we got to get a lot better in a lot of areas. But overall, pleased with the performance and the guys picking up the offensive terminology and such in such a short period of time.
Questions? Just what you think of it? Just what you think of the atmosphere and having Eddie Sutton and Nolan Richardson there, just all that stuff.
Yeah, I thought that when we first tossed the idea around, I don't think we could ever envision that both Coach Richardson and Coach Sutton would be here together. To be able to do the photo op afterwards with our guys, and then Monday we're going to kind of really dive into the history of both coaches and what they did for this program, and it's really cool. It's really neat. I'm new to the area, obviously, but understand the significance of what both men did for the state and what they did for the university and the basketball program. So to be able to have them come in a setting like tonight I thought it was really cool.
I guess which player stood out to you, as far as playing well?
I thought that, several guys. I thought Jimmy Witt did a great job rebounding the basketball. I liked how he didn't force the issue from an offensive standpoint. I thought, especially, the first segment of the game offensively, Isaiah Joe was outstanding with his, 3-point shooting and spacing and not trying to force the issue. I thought Adriel Bailey did a great job of slashing and getting extra possessions. He took 2 shots that were mid-range shots that we did not we don't feel that's in his wheelhouse, so to speak, and we discussed that with him. But and then I hate to bring it up, but Connor's, we're a lot different when he's on the floor because he spaces it. He adds a dimension from obviously the size factor, but his 3-point shooting, when we put him out there.
We're back to our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Monday recap edition of OTH, and as we recap all things Arkansas Razorbacks and get you ready as we preview this upcoming Kentucky ball game as Arkansas travels to Lexington, Kentucky, as Big East versus West rivalry, as they're going to take on the Kentucky Wildcats for only. Well, this is an amazing stat. Real quick before we get off into our basketball talk, the 8th time that these two teams have played. You hear that, Demetrius and listeners? The 8th time that these two teams have played in the SEC, and Arkansas has been in the conference since 1990, I believe, 8 times they played each other in, I believe, 30 years. Tremendous. So, SEC, if you're listening, we got to do something about that schedule. 8 times in 30 years playing an SEC Eastern opponent. We got to have. I'm of the belief, real quick, play devil's advocate. I think it should be 9 conference games. I think you should have 6 normal. You should have 2 Eastern normals, and then you rotate that third one. Is what I think. 9 conference, 3 non-conference.
I mean, then you'll be hearing teams complain that their conference is weak, and the only good conference is the SEC. Now the SEC has to play 3 more games.
Man, because I'm thinking, 8 times in 30 years, and then we're all in the conference. We have 14 teams, and you're just playing Kentucky. I think, if my math and my research is correct, 8 times in 30 years. Wow, that's unbelievable. But we'll move on because Arkansas, went throwback style this past Saturday as they had their annual red-white game, Team Eddie versus Team Nolan in Barnhill Arena, in what I thought was a very festive crowd. About the number that I thought, they say it was roughly, I think it was the estimated attendance, 4,559. I think that's vastly under the attendance count. I thought to me, it just looked like there was more in the facility. In Old Barnhill Arena, I saw a lot of throwback uniforms and throwback apparel that I used to grow up watching. But the only thing that was different to me was too light in there. It's just too much light in that facility. What I can go back to knowing that it was very dark, but I noticed some other things that people were talking, and it seemed like you were yelling, and that's when I really start to have a little remnants of how it was back in the day when you were next to your neighbor, your neighbor in your row, and you guys are talking, but it sounds like you're yelling. That was just the buzz in there, I think with the auditions of having Nolan Richardson and Eddie Sutton both be able to be in attendance at that event made for quite the festivities. And some guys that stuck out to me were Reggie Chaney, Connor Vanover, Isaiah Joe, and Jimmy Whitt. These seem to be the guys, and then you get we had that workman-like approach from an Adriel Bailey. The guy, he just seemed to be just little things. He just got it done. I felt like I saw more energy, a lot of different stuff that maybe I hadn't seen in the Arkansas program. And that's to take nothing away from previous staffs that were at the University of Arkansas. Everybody has something different, but kind of some of the things that I was really impressed with is that, Demetrius, when I watched the scrimmage, Reggie Chaney had a couple plays that Coach Chris Crutchfield, he and Coach Williams had one team. Muss and Coach Moser had the other team. And they called a couple plays for Reggie, and he came through. And they just continued to go to him. But also, too, what also stood out to me is the difference that Connor Vanover, if he's able to play this year, will have with the spacing of this basketball team. And what I mean by that, him helping space, I think he's a phenomenal passer. The kid can shoot the basketball at a high clip from the three-point line. I think what goes really vastly underrated with Connor, because he is 7'3", is his passing ability. I think if he's able to get his waiver this is going to be a basketball team that you'll have to reckon with. If not, they're only going to be as good as they rebound.
Yeah, I think Coach Busselman kind of alluded to it with that last statement in his press conference. How he said Connor, really gave them the ability to space the floor, and his ability to shoot the ball really made them better. And anytime you have that big guy that can really do some things like that, it's definitely a mismatch. And you look at Isaiah Joe, a very efficient, 3-point shooter. So you just take those two players, and you at least have two players that can at least go for 20 any night.
And you think about that. Isaiah goes 4 out of 8, 4 out of 7, I believe. No, 4 out of 8 from the 3-point. 4 out of 5, 4 out of 8 from the 3-point line for 12 points in the first half of the scrimmage. Then he comes out and goes 0 for 5. Doesn't score a point, but did a couple little things that I think you really won't. If you didn't know last year, and you weren't a real watcher of this Arkansas basketball program, you wouldn't have a great appreciation. But he was able to put the ball on the floor. I saw him make some point guard decisions and not force so many shots. Another guy that stood out to me was J.D. Notate. We had J.D. on here on OTH back in the summer when he decided to come to Arkansas. J.D. is going to be a pleasure to watch. Wish he could be able to, he would be eligible this year, but he's going to be a great addition at that point guard spot for making his teammates better, but also having the ability to get to the rim and create his own shot and get to the foul line.
So let me add this with Isaiah Joe. Isaiah and Joe and Connor are going to be those two star players, if he is granted that access to play this year. But what's really makes those two guys valuable is you have two true scorers on the floor. If Isaiah's there alone, you really don't have another just definite score. Reggie Chaney can score. Jimmy. Am I saying it? Is it Jimmy Witt?
Jimmy Witt.
Jimmy Witt does have a little jumper, but I think
Jimmy's gonna be that glue guy.
I think the only true scorer you have on the court at all times is Isaiah Joe. So again, I think it's crucial that Connor gets that year because he's gonna be the outlet that allows Isaiah to come off the floor when he is having that 0 for 5 moments or he is kind of having an off night when it comes to that 3-point.
See, I'm just going to be real excited either if he plays or if he doesn't play, just to see the growth of this basketball team. Guys like Reggie Chaney and Isaiah Joe and Mason Jones and Desi Seals. I want to see how Adriel continues to develop under this coaching staff.
See, Pat, the only reason I say it's in a rush because, there was a lot of scouts that says, Isaiah Joe can leave this year.
Yeah.
So there may not be another waiting period where he can get to play with Connor, and that's why I say, it's crucial that that Connor does get that exceptions this year because when you look at the pieces, if Isaiah tends to go and Connor stays, you still lost a huge, you lost 30% of your offense when you're talking about from a skills position. So that's why I say it's going to be crucial. But I will add on that we'll give Musselman the ability to go recruit because I think some of those those younger guys coming in can fill the void of Isaiah Joe. Right. I just think it will put Musselman at least 2 years ahead of schedule if he gets both of those guys on court because then you're looking at Arkansas potentially winning 20-plus games his first year here at Arkansas.
Well, you just never know with the NCAA. I mean, they pick and choose what Power 5 schools, and it always seems to be the blue bloods like the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys and the Dukes that, you kind of expect to be able to get these type of waivers. I think it's going to be, we would hope in a really big way if he can get out there and get the waiver, but
I think he does, man.
I think Muss didn't feel too good. And when you talk to the coaches outside of practice, they don't. In that practice, they kind of have some rotations to where they're pretty much, planning for him not to be there.
See, I think he's going to play.
I'm hoping he does.
I think Musselman has, and it all boils down to politics. Even when you look at these true blue bloods, when you look at, Ohio State getting the football player that transferred in, he plays right away. You look at Kentucky, those guys transfer right in. I think it's all about who you know and who you are as a representative inside that conference.
Hey, speaking of representative, a representative that's representing the state of Arkansas at another school really, really well. KJ Hill from Ohio State.
For sure.
KJ's 23 catches away. And get this, listeners. 23 receptions away from becoming the all-time leading receiver at the University of Ohio State.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to him staying 4 years of college. You know,
And you think about
you
it.
can't do those type of numbers in a year. You can't do them in a two. You know,
Brett had him committed there for a minute, and he flipped.
It just happens. You know, I think KJ made a better decision. You know, do I go make it become a hometown hero, or do I go to a championship caliber?
You think about
program?
players that he could have had in this program. He got fired, but you think about it. When you talk about Isaiah Spiller, the safety at Clemson. You talk about Travis Etienne, the running back. You talk about Josh Jacobs. You talk about KJ Hill. I mean, these guys in your program make you a different football team. Unfortunately, you know, things happen. They were able to go to better places. I understand it. You know, you can't go wrong with Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama. I mean, all those guys have done was just go into the college football playoff system, and all three of those programs during those young men's time, outside of KJ, has had a national championship ring. KJ, I mean, they might be close this year with Fields, but just wanted to make a note as to, you know, just how the talent in Arkansas has been able to go outside the state. I've always been a big proponent. The more talent that goes outside your state and can do like KJ and those guys, it just enhances the generations coming up behind that are playing in those particular sports. I mean, look at basketball, how high school football and girls high school football, basketball, I'm sorry, has really evolved in the state of Arkansas with so many Power 5 schools coming in, both on the men's and women's side, making big time offers to these athletes. But I just want to know, make a note that it was a very, very festive environment there on Saturday. There's going to be more, as I'm really excited. A week from this Sunday, make a note, October 20th, Nolan Richardson Court will be dedicated to the GOAT, the greatest basketball coach I've ever known at the University of Arkansas. Now, I had a chance to watch he and Eddie, but mine is no, make no mistake. Hey, Sutton was a great one. He was a GOAT as well, but it's going to be a very, very festive moment. In the exhibition, they'll be playing Arkansas Little Rock in an exhibition game the weekend of Arkansas Auburn. That too, 11 a.m. kickoff, as the SEC has announced. Arkansas will host the Auburn Tigers next Saturday, October 19th, in Donald W. Reynolds. Tip off and that will be shown on the SEC Network. 11 a.m. kickoff. Good thing or bad thing, Demetrius? And it was also too made a note. Arkansas has had to play an opponent coming off a bye week 3 out of the last 4 weeks, with another one coming up next week, as the Auburn Tigers will be idle this Saturday before they come to Fayetteville. Talk about how big that is, when your team but I think it's going to be kind of equal with both them and Kentucky having off week this past week, with being able to see a couple little wrinkles. I mean, you always, if you're an offensive staff or defensive staff, you got to be ready for that kind of stuff.
No, I just hope these guys didn't let that bye week get them back lagging and kind of unorthodox, because I feel like they were kind of getting some things going. When you look at kind of repetition, yes, I know they were kind of banged up, but it seemed like things were meshing, and it seemed like if they played one more game last week, they kind of would have probably put everything together. So I'm just hoping those guys don't have a bad relapse where, they do improve in another area, but area they were strong at before the bye week, now they're not doing so well. So I just hope these guys can play a complete 4 quarters of football.
Well, we're going to get out of here. That's going to wrap up our Monday recap, and we'll be back in our full hour slot from 1 to 2 p.m. Tomorrow with a lot of SEC roundups. There's a lot of big games, because this coming weekend, it's going to kick in high octane in the SEC, and it's going to really push the envelope and bring to the motto that they like to talk about in the South and the SEC. It just means more. I mean, there's going to be a ton of games. We're going to make a trip down to Florida. We're going to LSU. We're going to Kentucky. Yes, we are going to, and you got to know we're going to A&M. We're going to go all over the place, because games are happening, and they're going to happen at a high rate. We're going to bring you up to date, up to the minute coverage from all of our SEC Caravan. I'm excited, but we're going to get out of here for today and get ready for tomorrow. More coverage, more audio. We're making our way over to Razorback practice, as we'll have media availability with the players tomorrow night, and much, much more. And man, we got media day coming up for the girls basketball program on Wednesday. I mean, it's just a smorgasbord of things going on in the world of Razorbacks, and everything that's on the hill, we got it right here for you. Until tomorrow, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville and office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion is located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting, and our newest sponsor, KDK's Chicken at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith and Kathy and get you a plate of that love. Like they say, it's not your mama's. From myself, from my producer Demetrius, to you all, it's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and let's get it.